Good evening and welcome to the Council Advisory Committee CAC meeting of April 14th, 2025. This meeting is being live streamed on the Town of Kentville's YouTube channel, and I call this meeting to order. I respectfully acknowledge that we are in the traditional and unceded lands of the Mi'kmaq people. We honor their deep connection to this land, past, present, and future. And I also recognize and honor the contributions and heritage of African Nova Scotians whose ancestors have shaped and enriched this community for generations. We do have regrets this evening from Councillor Hamilton. However, we do have quorum. I'll begin by asking if there's any conflict of interest issues that Council should be made aware of before we begin the meeting. There being none, we'll move right along. To approval of the agenda, we've been provided with a proposed agenda. I have two additions, and the first one will be item 10C, and it'll be CAO Hiring Committee, as well as 10D, which will be personnel. Do you have any changes, CAO? Any other changes?
No.
Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? And a seconder? Deputy Mayor Cole. All those in favor? There's a set of minutes from the March 14th, 2025 CAC meeting. They've been distributed for approval. If there are no changes, we will file those as presented. Any changes to those? Okay, we'll move right along to presentations. We'll invite up Julie Ogilvie, the Executive Director of the Kentville Business Community. She's got an update from KBC to present.
Hello, good evening. Just get everything in the right place here. Good evening, Mayor Zabian and members of Council. My name is Julie Ogilvie. I'm the new Executive Director of the Kentville Business Community, and it's a pleasure to be with you here this evening. Tonight, I want to share with you where we are, what we've been working on, and where we're going. And I'll walk you through our priorities, our budget, and our new strategic direction, and how we see KBC continuing to be a valuable part of the town of Kentville and a strong advocate for our business community. First off, I really want to acknowledge that this last year has been a year of change for us. We've gone through a lot of transition. When we started the year off, we were continuing with our longstanding Executive Director, Genevieve Hearn, and our Communications Coordinator, Doug Ralph. But by the end of that very first month of last year, both of those people had moved on to other opportunities. And then we had a couple of EDs come into the role. We started with Jordan, who joined us for 3 months. And then we had Meg, who started with us from October and just finished in the end of March. We also had Natasha, who is a local business owner here with Sugar House Ceramics, who was helping us out with our socials for about a 4-month period through that time when Meg was with us, which we're deeply, really happy with. We are very proud that she asked to step up, and she actually did it on a volunteer basis for a while. So just shows that level of dedication to our town that even our businesses feel. But at the end of March, we were facing another change, which leads me to why I'm here and who I am. So it has obviously been an undeniable year of challenge and of change. We want to recognize that. But it's also been time to pause and to reflect. And we're grateful for all of these people that have come into our establishment, into our organization, because they've helped us to grow and to learn. And they've allowed us to become incredibly clear on the vision that we have for the KBC and the path forward. So, like I said, this is where I come in. My name is Julie Ogilvie, and I am the new Executive Director of the Kentville Business Community, but I am not actually new to the KBC. In fact, I've sat on the board since August of 2022. I've been involved in the executive committee since 2024, and I actually live in Kentville, and I have run my own business out of Kentville since 2020. I am very community-minded. I love Kentville, and I'm not just saying that. It has been such a remarkable place for me to land during the pandemic and build a community, and it has been such a delight for me to be a part of building strong community here in Kentville. I really see that as part of my mission. So By trade, I am a digital marketing strategist, and I work with small businesses. Specifically, I've been working with small businesses across Nova Scotia for the last 3 years to increase their impact, their profit, and their brand awareness, and to actually help them bring more people to their businesses. So it is such a delight for me to bring this experience here to Kentville to be able to focus on our downtown core and provide those same services to them under the umbrella of KBC, but to have that extra experience under my belt. I think it's going to be a great addition to the team, and it's really going to lend itself to where we're going this year. So I'm delighted to see you here tonight, but it will not be the last time. I look forward to joining you on a regular basis. So this past year marked our final chapter of our 2021 to 2025 strategic plan, which was built around 4 key pillars. The pillars were engagement and communication, marketing and promotion, infrastructure and investment, and support and recognition. While this year did bring its fair share of change and transition, we remain grounded in these priorities, and we're proud of the meaningful impact that we were still able to make within the downtown community this past year. Under the engagement and communication pillar, one of KBC's core roles is to act as a conduit of information and keeping the lines of communication open between the business community, and the town and its many partners. We've also been focused on engaging businesses in community events, making sure that they feel connected, informed, and included in what's happening downtown. So over the past year, we've been involved in many of the events that bring energy and visibility to Kentville. That includes supporting the Mural Festival, again last year, where 3 new vibrant murals were painted. And in participating in events like the Multicultural Festival, which was the first year that was no longer under the KBC umbrella, but we are still very connected with that festival and a beautiful celebration of diversity in our community. We also hosted a wreath building workshop as part of Fire and Ice. And obviously Holidays, even though it was very rainy, was a great success once again to bring lots of people to town. Smaller opportunities include things like our business mingles. We've had one in the Valley Hub as well as one recently at Wheelhouse Coffee just last month. And these touch points really might seem small, but they go a long way in building those business partnerships and sharing resources and growing that sense of community among our downtown businesses. Under support and recognition, our local businesses is to recognize the incredible contributions that they make to the community. And over the past year, we've done that in a number of ways, both showing up by celebrating wins, big and small. Firstly, we welcomed and supported 13 new businesses opening their doors in Kentville. And each of these businesses adds something unique to our downtown, and we're proud to welcome them with personal visits, support, and celebration. We also created space for community engagement by hosting a meet and greet with the municipal council candidates and facilitating a provincial candidates debate, giving our businesses and residents a chance to connect and engage with the community as well. During holidays, we supported late night shopping, which drew foot traffic and created a festive buzz downtown. And we were proud to participate in the Coldest Night of the Year fundraiser this year, coming in as team number 3, raising over $5,800 for a very local important cause. In total, we've supported over a dozen local organizations this year, whether that's through grants, micro grants, events, promotion, or just showing up to cheer them on. That kind of recognition matters, and it's something that we're continuing as we move forward. Under marketing and promotion, this plays a key role in how we drive traffic downtown and encourage people to shop, dine, and do business in Kentville. And over the past year, we've run several initiatives to boost visibility and encourage participation, including a special Canada Cup market, which was a great success despite it looking like a very rainy start. It ended up being a great turnout. We've also run many contests and giveaways like our ornament giveaway, which added a fun interactive touch to the holiday season. That said, we do recognize that there's so much more potential in this area, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more as we look ahead. Marketing is one of our top priorities in the coming year. And as part of that strategy, we're working on a rebrand as well of the Kentville business community to help unify our messaging and better reflect the spirit of community that we serve, and also brand awareness for what the Kentville business community actually is and what we are doing here. So you'll see more campaigns, more consistency, and more creativity coming from the KBC in the months ahead. Our final pillar is investment, infrastructure and investment, and the KBC continues to play an important role in advocating for improvements that make downtown Kentville a more welcoming, beautiful, and accessible place to be. This year we supported 9 businesses through our facade program, 5 from the property owner stream and 4 from the new business stream. These funds helped improve signage, lighting, paint, and storefronts, making a visible difference in the overall aesthetic and appeal of our downtown. And these photos show some of those before and after shots, which is where we really see that impact being made. We also awarded seasonal decor grants to 36 businesses with storefront windows, including collaborations with 8 local artists. These small touches go a long way in bringing life and charm to the streetscape, especially during high traffic seasons like holidays, apple blossom, and pumpkin people. And then during the sidewalk renovations, we made it a priority to support affected businesses. We kept lines of communication open, helped problem solve in real time, and ran messaging to remind the public that yes, stores were still open during that construction. We look forward to doing that again this year. It's this kind of behind-the-scenes support that makes downtown more functional, more beautiful, and more resilient, and we're committed to continuing this work in collaboration with the town and our partners going forward. A note on the budget. In 2024, KBC operated with a total budget of $182,500. Of that, we spent just under $145,000. Our largest investment was in personnel, which reflects our commitment to building capacity and ensuring that we have the people power needed to move our goals forward. We also dedicated significant funding towards events and beautification projects, representing 24%, operations 13%, and our facade improvement program 11%, which continues to be a meaningful driver of downtown revitalization. Only 8% of our budget went towards advertising and promotion, which we recognize is quite low, and we are actively working on a new marketing strategy that will allow us to get more impact out of every dollar in that area. And then further note on that is that you will notice that there is underspending in each area of our budget this year. That was not predicted. When we started the year, we did not think that that would be the case. However, due to the personnel changes that we faced this year, it was challenging to fulfill any large scope projects because we were going through those changes. Because of that, we initially budgeted that we were going to be drawing into our reserves a total of $27,000 to help balance the budget. In the end, we did not need to do that this year. However, we have plans where we will absolutely be doing that next year, and we have intentions to bring each of those categories up, particularly that marketing and promotions, which can really only be done when we have someone solid who's in it for the long haul. Which I am. And we're most excited, probably, about our new strategic direction. So earlier this year, the KBC board met for a full-day facilitated session to begin shaping our next strategic plan, which is picking up now. We reviewed our past progress, gathered input from business owners and stakeholders, and engaged in a deep dive SWOT analysis. From that session, we emerged with a refreshed mission and vision and a new set of organizational values and 4 strategic priorities with goals to help us move forward. And I'm delighted to share with you our new vision is a vibrant place to work, shop, and play. Our new mission is to support, promote, and enhance downtown Kentville and bring value to our business community. And we also have our 4 pillars. So while we've made significant strides in defining our priorities, we are just getting started with the detailed work. Our strategic plan is focused on communication and promotion, communication and engagement, marketing and promotion, advocacy, and organizational efficacy. It is my primary action to define the specific initiatives that we will take to meet the goals that are set out in our plan. We've yet to finalize all of these pieces, but we are very excited about the road forward and what we are seeing for the direction that the KBC is moving in. Particularly the fact that we have these goals in place, which you were given an additional document that outlines the goals under each pillar that I would encourage you to take a peek at your leisure. So we are very thrilled to be here, to be entering into a new strategic era for the Kentville business community. Our board is incredibly dedicated. We have seen people stick through this year of change and transition, and we've seen a lot of new, fresh voices also joining the board. We know that we've got the business community behind us, and we also know that there's a lot of work to do to make sure that we are creating a unified voice going forward, but we're ready to pull up our sleeves and to do the work. We're really excited about where we're going, and we thank you for your continued support of the Kemptville business community.
Thank you very much, Julie, for that. That was a great segue. Any questions for Julie based on her presentation? Councillor Baker.
Well done and congratulations.
Thank you.
The third document that you referred to with the description of the 4 pillars.
Yes.
What's the title of that document? Because I'm looking for it.
It is the Strategic Plan 2025 to 2028 draft.
I would have got it under a separate heading then. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I can also just make sure that you received the proper document.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your presentation, Julie, and congratulations on your new appointment to Executive Director. I'm pretty pumped about that. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Just a question around the strategic priorities, community and engagement. I'm just wondering sort of what you and or the board see as maybe one of the largest challenges, I guess, in the downtown business community that you're sort of running up against when you think about the community engagement piece with the business owners?
Yeah. For the community and the engagement piece in particular, we have struggled with that in the past and getting the business owners themselves to respond in the past to polls or questionnaires that we have issued. The first step I see is that we really need to I will be making like personal contact with all of them. I can't wait to sort of meet everyone and to ask them some of those pivotal questions first, so that we can lay a strong foundation of what is being looked for by the community itself. And then going forward, we are very interested in creating more live opportunities where the business community can come together. We're looking at bringing back lunch and learns. We've been speaking with some initial members of the community to see if that timing might work well for them. And we're hearing, yes, they think that lunchtime will be a good time. It's that opportunity to get offline that we're really excited about, because I think we've all transitioned into this digital era, which is helpful because we're able to get communication out more easily, but we're all being bombarded with it. So it's hard to get people sometimes to respond. So we're going to try and focus on offline events, offline gatherings, and doing them much more frequently so that we can actually be keeping that pulse on the community, and as well keeping them together, because the more that we are talking with one another instead of talking in like little pods, then the easier it will be to make decisions that we know that are aligned with what the community actually wants. Separately, just to back it up on the digital side, we will be breaking up our newsletter as well. Right now we've had one newsletter that goes out to the community at large and our business owners, but we'll be breaking that out so that there will be a separate newsletter only for the business owners, so that hopefully, again, it'll be communicated in person, but then we'll be very clear to say, if you only open one communication from us this month, right, open this one, because this is where we're asking for your feedback and your opinions. So we'll see.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Julie, for your presentation. I was just I'm wondering, and I was a little surprised that one of your pillars isn't about accessibility in the downtown core. And I'm just wondering, are there ongoing discussions about improving accessibility for patrons and things like that? Because our buildings, a lot of them really aren't accessible.
Yes, great point, and very much so. We are keeping that top of a lot of our discussions. It will be falling under the pillar of advocacy. So it doesn't have its own unique pillar, but it's absolutely being included in that plan. We've also been discussing if there's maybe a way to incorporate some accessibility funding into our facade program, seeing as now a lot of the buildings have been able to receive funding from that in the past. So potentially there's another stream that we could provide there.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to dovetail on what you suggested a few minutes ago. I know a number of years ago, I was on the other side of the room. I wasn't up here, and there was an event hosted. It was actually in chamber here where the business community was invited, and it was council at that time, but I think now that we have a very strong KBC, it might be nice for the business community to be invited and to bring their concerns. It's really a good way because the surveys are great, but I know it's probably low percentage of people that fill them out, and people don't always reach out on their own. They need to be encouraged. So I think that would be a great project, and you'd probably see quite a group here, exclusively the business community, and you could take that information back and probably work on some suggestions.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, all right, thank you very much. I guess there's no more questions.
Okay.
Thanks for coming by. And thanks to
you
your
very much.
entourage down there. You've got a big fan base, so.
We represent, we're here, we're ready.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will move on now to department reports. The directors have their reports prepared, and we always start with Director Matthews. Because if we have no money, there's no funny, right?
Everyone. My report, as you said, has been circulated. I want to highlight a couple of items. One, you will have noticed that the operating forecast and the capital forecast have not been changed. We are right there around year end. There are a few areas on the operating side that may have spent a little more than what the forecast said. There's a few that have spent a little less, so we haven't made any changes to individual lines. However, we're not expecting to be materially different than where we are predicting for the overall forecasted operating deficit. On the capital side, you will have noticed that we have spent 87% of our forecast. There are, excuse me, a few areas where we had a few amounts different than forecast, but once again, ups and downs that net to no significant change, and there will be year-end adjustments that will flow through those accounts in the next couple of weeks. Our taxes levied, you may have noticed I added in the number of accounts that were outstanding at year-end. So we have a 1.1% of our tax levied still outstanding for 24-25. We did have a payments for the month of March of over $71,000. So our percentage outstanding has gone down by 39% this month. However, it's still 122 accounts that owe taxes for the 24-25 year as we get ready to issue our 25-26 interim bill. So those are the key areas that I wanted to highlight in the financial report before we move into the 3 individual recommendations. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Director Matthews based on this report? Okay, I guess there's none. I have one.
Sure.
And it may be pointed to planning. I noticed in there that you noticed that inspection services were up or exceeded 42,000.
Right.
So is that, am I guessing that's about double what we usually, I forget what we pay the county to contract that service?
It was
It's in around there, isn't it?
less than double, but
Okay.
it is significant. Part of it is a change in the way they do accounting for their revenue. So part of it is our share was higher,
Okay.
and their costs for their salaries are a little higher, but.
So do we anticipate this probably is going to be moving forward, okay. So maybe a discussion at some point to look at our,
As we look at our operating budget for
Right.
25-26, it will
Okay.
likely exceed what we would have had last year.
okay. And maybe time for us to look at having our
Maybe.
own, possibly, but we'll get to that, I guess, later
Yes.
on, yeah. Okay,
Yes.
all right,
Yes.
moving on to your recommendations.
Sure. So to start, I've put forward to you a recommendation for a low income tax exemption. Overall, there's no process change this year. We have identified an increase in our exemption levels, and those are consistently increasing for the cap percentage, I say cap, it would be our inflationary percentage equivalent to the percentage that is used for our cap on our assessment values. This year, that is 1.5%. So our exemption values this year would be $650, $520, and $390 based on a certain earnings range, which is outlined within that report. The income threshold overall is $32,732, which is equivalent to the married OAS and GIS combined. So no change, as I said, to policy, but a recommendation that we approve the resolution that is attached for low-income tax exemption for the 25-26 year to be approved and forwarded to Town Council for ratification. The exemption amounts ranging from $390 to $650, the income ceiling of $32,732.70, and the deadline for application would be June 30th of 2025. We generally send these documents out with the interim tax bill, so to those people who would have received the exemption in the previous year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Director Matthews based on that recommendation? So we would recommend, our Council Advisory Committee recommend to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of Council that Council approve the resolution of low-income tax exemption for the 2025-2026 year as follows. Exemption amount $390 to $650. Income ceiling of $32,732.70. And the deadline for applications, June 30th, 2025. Someone could move that? Deputy Mayor Kroll and Councillor Savage. Is there any discussion on that? Ready for the question. The Council Advisory Committee recommend to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of Council that Council approve the resolution for low-income tax exemption for the 2025-2026 year as follows. Exemption amount $390 to $650. Income ceiling $32,732.70. Deadline for applications June 30th, 2025. And voting is now open. And voting is now closed, and the motion is carried.
I apologize, I've got a battery issue here or something.
Okay.
It's not giving, yeah, it's flashing battery low. I voted in the positive.
Okay, he's in the positive then, so we're gonna try to fix your. Yeah, do you want to move on to the next recommendation? Thank you.
Second recommendation is for our participation in the spring debenture. In the memo that has been provided to council, you will notice that there are two temporary borrowing resolution. One would have been 2025 expenditures, which we received a temporary borrowing resolution in late 2024 of $1,381,000. Of those items, only $316,000 has been fully expended and therefore eligible for debenture. The reason for the large variance is because of the Donald E. Hiltz deferral of expenditure to the upcoming year. The other item that is identified would have normally been debentured in the fall of 2024. However, due to the timing and changeover of council, we did not meet that deadline, and we brought forward to council in November a promissory note short-term loan with the province of $726,000 that will automatically move into debenture with commitment from council for the same. So that is the 726. That would relate to 2024 expenditures, so the prior year. The total of which is $1,042,000. We are required to provide a letter of commitment to Treasury Board by April the 24th to say that council, is committed to participating in the debenture issue, That resolution has been provided to you, and it is a resolution for pre-approval of debenture issuance subject to interest rate. Within that document, there is an interest rate of, I believe, 6.5%. That amount is higher than what is anticipated. However, they don't want to go out, find the rate is higher than what's in the document and have to come back to council. So that is the ceiling, but they do expect it to be less. Just for ease of moving it forward, it will not be higher than that. With that, we do recommend that the attached resolution for pre-approval of debenture issuance be ratified by Town Council. And after that is ratified, we would forward to the Nova Scotia Department of Finance the documentation to complete the issue. So we will send them on April 24th a letter of intent. Your council meeting is subsequent to that. It needs to be into them on the Thursday. Your council meeting is on the Monday. So we would let them know that we would anticipate that that approval would come on the 28th.
Perfect. Are there any
Just
questions?
timing is a little off.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Matthews based on that recommendation? All right, so if we turn that recommendation into a motion, it would be the Council Advisory Committee recommend to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of Council. The Council approve the following resolutions for pre-approval of debenture insurance, and once approved, they will be forwarded to the Nova Scotia Department of Finance to complete our debenture issue for spring 2025, consisting of the following: TBR 2024-0387-01, various in the amount of $316,000, promissory note 11-25-24, short-term loan in the amount of $726,000 for a total of $1,042,000. Okay, Councillor Savage and Deputy Mayor Kroll. Is there any discussion on that? There being none, ready for the question. The Council Advisory Committee recommend to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of Council. The Council approve the following resolutions for pre-approval of debenture insurance, and once approved, they will be forwarded to the Nova Scotia Department of Finance to complete our debenture issue for spring 2025, consisting of the following: TBR-2024-0387-01, various for $316,000, promissory note 11-25-24, short-term loan $726,000 for a total of $1,042,000. And voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. All right, you're up for the last one.
Last recommendation. This recommendation is around our town capital expenditures and the impact that the current year expenditures have had in terms of being over or under budget, particularly for reserves. So as outlined in the memo that's been provided, we have had several projects that are identified that have come in over budget, and their funding initially was to come from reserves. So the items that are identified, you can see are the budget value was $498,000. They are over budget by $59,226 in total. There are 3 budget items of 0. And as I noted in the memo, that we had one project, which is the Memorial Park gazebo, that was carried forward from last year, but the capital budget was not carried forward. That was a miss in last year's budget. So that is that item. And the Klondike curb work, along with the security for Town Hall and Rec Center, those were 2 emergent issues that came up throughout the year that we had to address. And there were savings in other capital areas, so those moved forward. You will see that it's a little hard to put it in the chart, but beside each of the departments, you'll see a savings, other areas. So for administration, for example, there were 2 other projects. They came in under budget by $5,584. more than sufficient to offset the budget shortfall for the project that's identified here. In Public Works, the total for the 3 projects are far less than the $40,753 underspend in some projects that would have originally been intended to come from reserve. For recreation, the 2 that are identified there are far less than the $121,808 that we saw in savings for other projects, and economic development is the same. On the Kentville Police side, there were 2 projects that really are within $1,000, $589 and $1,200, so very close to budget. However, both of the equipment for virtual reality was funded externally, so there was no other source for that. So we're suggesting that that come out of reserve. The building was debt, and so we're suggesting that the 1224 over expenditure come from reserve. So we are requesting that council approve the withdrawal of the $59,226 from the Town of Kentville Capital Reserve to address the shortfall in the 24-25 expenditures that I've just identified.
Thank you, Director Matthews. Any questions for Director Matthews based on that recommendation? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Director. I'm just not sure what hardscaping is.
Sure. So the hardscaping and landscaping, and Darren, some of that was work that was mostly done in town in Center Square. So it would be, that's just the account name, but they did boxes and all those planting and tree plantings and those sorts of things fall within that category.
Okay,
All
great.
grouped together.
Thank you.
Yeah, mostly Central Square.
Yeah.
Or Center Square.
Okay, so the recommendation would be the Council Advisory Committee recommend to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of council that council approve the withdrawal of $59,226 from the Town of Kentville Capital Reserve to address the shortfall in the 2024-2025 capital expenditures. Someone could move that? Deputy Mayor Kroll and Councillor Baker. Is there any discussion on that? Call for the question. That Council Advisory Committee recommend to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of council that council approve the withdrawal of $59,226 from the Town of Kentville Capital Reserve to address the shortfall in the 2024-2025 capital expenditures. And voting is now open. Voting is now closed and the motion is carried. Thank you very much.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. We'll now invite Director Shoup up with planning.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We're going to be bringing in some guests tonight, so we'll start with that, and I'll finish the rest of my report after we move through this item. So I've asked that they've been permitted into the chat.
Can you raise that there?
You bet.
So we hear you better? Thank you.
Just let me clarify one thing here, and we might have to come back to them. And I'm going to drop out of this too. We had them in a few minutes ago, and then I was trying to figure out where they went. So in the meantime, I'm just going to pull up my presentation to get us started. Okay, he's working on it. Good. So if you're able to push that up, Alicia, that would be great. So the first item tonight is for an update, basically, on the Vita Living Development Agreement. We hope some reps from the company can join us in a minute. And what we're looking to do is basically have enough confidence from council that with the landscaping plan that they provided, and they just provided an updated one this morning too, so I apologize, this will be the first time you're seeing it, But hopefully it's a little more robust than what you've seen in the past, and it gives everyone a solid ground to move forward, to finalize the development agreement, moving forward to a first reading at some point. So that's basically where we wanted to get, and the reps were here to help answer any questions council might have on this landscaping plan. And I see some names behind me, so that's a good sign. Shannon, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you okay. Yeah, Ron's in here too. Great.
Wonderful. So Shannon, if you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourself to council.
Sure,
Yeah, you go ahead, Dan.
Y'all go ahead. Shannon McNeil, Senior Project Manager with VITA and Project Manager for this Kentville development.
Thanks, Shannon. Hi, everyone. Ron Lovett, founder and CEO of VITA, and excited to be here tonight.
And I'm Mike Anderson. I design the units and the site plan.
Wonderful. So I'm not sure if you three gentlemen heard my little intro, but basically what I explained to council is that we have your new landscape concept that was given to us this morning. Thank you for that. We wanted to address a few items as part of this development agreement to make sure that we're all on a similar page, at least enough to go forward to get this development agreement fully drafted and able to take forward to a first reading of council. So it's mutual comfort for today. What we had on February 10th, we brought the report back from the public participation meeting to council. We had some good discussion at the fire hall on a few days earlier, and some of the questions that came up were around such things as buffering, the open space, the general concept for the development, and what we've had in the meantime. The applicant has provided some updated drawings, most recently today, but there were another set before this. Staff is also engaged in a process of learning how the Condominium Act works and how it would apply in this case, which is a little bit different than the way we typically do development, not only in Kentville, but in the whole province. It's a relatively novel design that's gaining some traction. So what I can speak to in particular today, and on this drawing, and I appreciate the fact that it's very hard to read it off the screen right now, but there's a few points that are added to this plan in particular. The top one, I can use a cursor, which might help. So this top plan, which points to the central open space feature, and I'll read it off for you. It's a natural amphitheater and green space, specific landscape and outdoor commons area designed to be completed by a landscape architect after a development agreement. So that can be part of the considerations when we set out conditions in the development agreement, that it's completed and fully detailed at that time. The second one coming down this side, and again, to give context to this, half of this development, the northern half, or the top half of the page, is located in the county, and the southern half, or the bottom part of the page, is located within town. So it's a little bit different in that way as well, but manageable. And we're working on our development agreement side of it. So the second comment on, as we come down the page, specifically addresses the buffering, that they're pledging to maintain existing trees along the property line and plant as required to maintain a 6-foot high opaque vegetative buffer, or install a fence, whichever is most effective and to council's preference as well. And then the last one, and this is primarily where the major changes have occurred from the previous iteration of this that would have been in your reports, is that there's 2 units at the very southern part of the property down here, where prior to this plan, in the previous iteration, there was no dedicated amenity space for the units supplied. So they've reconfigured the units, it's my understanding, and they can correct me in a moment, and provided that dedicated amenity space. And each of the little green rectangles denoted by a dotted line are dedicated amenity spaces for each of the units. So there's specific amenity requirements, and we did the math on this earlier today. The amount of amenity space being proposed here is close to 3 times what's required as per our land use bylaw. And then there's the community space in the center of the development, which speaks to the common open space areas. Where this is also a condominium format, all of the spaces outside of the actual units themselves are considered to be common elements and will be maintained under their condo agreement as well, should this all go forward. So the last comment at the bottom here was that there's also a stormwater pond located in the southern area. So there may be opportunities there, and it wasn't shown on this particular plan, to add landscaping around there as well, to sort of balance out the landscaping elements on the southern part of the development, and to bring it perhaps more together cohesively in the future. So that's basically what we wanted to bring today. The question was whether or not council had some questions at the February 10th meeting about some of the landscaping that was being proposed at the time. And Mr. Mayor, perhaps we could entertain some conversation on that, and again, the developers are here to answer any questions the council may have, or the CAC may have on that item, or any items they wish to speak to.
Thank you very much, Director Soup. I have one question for anybody, I guess, on joining us tonight, and welcome. Just wondering where this project, the status on it right now is with the County of Kings. How far are you in the process, and is there anything you can update us with?
I think Mike can probably answer that, but I don't think we're going through this process for the Town of Kings as of right, correct?
Okay.
That's correct. The county told us that the project as proposed met their development as of right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions from council? Councilor?
Darren,
Yeah.
interject, and happy to give an overview of the whole project, or maybe they've already got a good understanding of kind of what we're really aiming to do there, but happy to do that if that's helpful.
Thanks. I'll leave that at the discretion of the mayor if they.
You know, we'll go through the questions, and then if we have some time, Councilor Maxwell.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Director. Just a question here about the setback. It was to be 20 feet, I believe, and now, and it was listed at 15 feet. I think you're looking at now a 6-foot-high vegetation or fence, but how far back from the line is that being set back?
Is the question how far back the fence is?
Yeah, from the line.
Yeah, I would assume that the fence would be along the property line.
So right on the property line?
I believe that's generally where people put the fence, yeah.
Yeah, but I think we're looking at a setback so many feet from the property line.
For the units themselves.
For the units themselves.
Right. Oh, yeah, no, the units are set back except for where it's denoted in red on the setback plan, which I don't know if you can pull that up there.
I think I'll try.
Everywhere else, it meets the town as of right requirements for setback, which I believe is 15 feet.
15 feet. Okay.
Yeah.
So
at least 15 feet except where noted, in some cases it's more.
So there are two,
Right.
Mr. Chair, there are two occasions where that happens, where there's two units on the town side of the development where they would encroach within what would be the land use bylaw setback. Again, with the development agreement, we're creating our own bylaw. And the idea is that there may be some flexibility within that structure to allow for some variances to setbacks and other items as well.
So those two are maybe closer, so they might be 10 feet or 5 feet?
They could be closer. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
One is 12 feet and one is 8'4", as shown on the plan.
Okay.
You're good, Councilor Maxwell? Mm-hmm. Okay. Councilor Baker.
I know this came up in the consultation, and I'm sorry to sound a little petty, but if we look at where the property line is for the town boundary, it looks like the County of Kings is getting more trees than Kentville is. Is there a reason for that, or is there a way we can improve the greenery in Kentville?
I mean, a detailed landscape plan by a landscape architect will be done when there's a reasonable degree of certainty around the project happening. In the meantime, I mean, the site layout in particular was actually done in a competition, and there are certain things in the winning proposition that we've tried to really faithfully keep. One of which is the central park. Yes, the park in the center of the plan happens to fall on the county side, but the reality is the experience of people living in this development are not going to really care which side they're on, because it's one development, right?
Understood, yeah. When we originally saw the first mock-ups, it was very green with lots of canopy. But when we actually go and look at this in real life, it has been cut completely. So, yeah, we'd like to see as many trees as possible in that landscape architect's rendition.
I can skip back to our strategy will be to talk to other developers that are developing lands and clear cutting spaces to bring in as many trees as possible. I mean, we really, the vision for this is that, and I apologize, we did look at it from a Kentville to Neminus to the other side. That wasn't part of our planning, was one community, and so we are going to want to have a very even feel with lots of green space, especially once the units are dropped. We'll be over greening the site, which to me is very, very important.
Wonderful, wonderful, thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. So through the chair to the presenters. With regards to the condo piece of it, because I think originally it wasn't going to be condos, was it? It was going to be the apartments, townhouses, row houses, those sorts of things that's centered around the multi-unit community. I'm just wondering why the move to condos and how that will impact the development overall. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. I can take that. So this was a big debate previously. So I don't know if you know much about Vita. So our company, Vita, owns 2,800 apartments between Winnipeg and Atlantic Canada. We're actually the third largest landlord in Nova Scotia between units of Truro and HRM. We've got about 1,750 affordable units. So the average rent of those units is about $965, including e-com. So we are not a traditional multifamily developer, and I was actually on paternity leave with my 3.5-year-old, my daughter Margaret at the time, and we had debated back and forth that, you know, when we look at the housing crisis, Vita continues to own lots of multifamily, but we thought, like, how do we participate in a sustainable way and help Canadians? And really, it was affordable home ownership. That's where we thought that nobody was really looking at. There's lots of people doing development for apartment rentals. We own lots of apartment rentals. We're launching a fund right now to buy another 7,000 rentals across the country. So we've already got a major focus on that, in buying existing housing. We thought, look, why don't we know that Kentville has an affordability challenge. Nova Scotia, including Kentville, has a home ownership, an affordable home ownership challenge with, you know, folks looking to downsize, students and young Canadians looking to buy their first home, migrants coming into the country. Like, affordable home ownership has got away from everyone. And so we tested the idea behind, are these rentals or should these be to what they are today, which is condominiums? And we did a sample size of seniors, students, you name it, with our own customers that could afford these types of rentals. We're talking, you know, $350 below for a brand new, close to net zero home in a really interesting community that Mike, who's on here, has helped us develop. And it was, bar none, all customers said, we want to own. We don't want to rent. We want to own our own home. There's a pride of ownership, and we want to feel like homeowners. That's something that has got away from them. And we know it's got away from Canadians, and so we wanted to bring that back into the fold. We know the average price is, I don't know, $550 in Nova Scotia today. To get into a new home like this is virtually impossible. And so Darren alluded before, we did an international contest to develop the site. We had 25 entries from 15 different countries of folks that put their ideas into the site of how the units would be laid out, what the amenities would look like, and we really wanted to make it a vibrant community. And so all that to be said, the strategy was, let's bring home ownership back. There's a pride of home ownership. Nova Scotia and Canada has got away from, you know, with inflation, with the pandemic, et cetera. The home ownership, an affordable home ownership has gotten away from a lot of Canadians. So the strategy was, let's do home ownership. Therefore, these would be condominiums where you would own some dirt below your unit.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Kroll.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. To the Director, if I may. Did I hear correctly that the drawing that you were looking at first is different than the drawing that we have on our packages?
We just got updated drawings this morning.
Is there any way we can get the updated drawings?
Certainly, this is the one
Because I
being
can't
depicted.
see
Okay.
what's on there.
We can certainly get those distributed to you.
Okay, thank you.
And maybe, Director, I know you spoke to it a few minutes ago, maybe just show that the changes were those two yellow, am I right? The two at the bottom?
That's right.
Right.
I have to go back to the top.
not two red circles up,
There we go.
3, 4 units.
Councillor Baker,
Sorry.
don't have the floor, yeah.
So the two units in the south here, that's the main, and the folks on the screen can correct me if I'm wrong, but the main changes from the ones that you would have had in your packages are these southern two units, which now are showing their own dedicated amenity space, where previously the units that were there were lacking in that. So they've done some tweaks to
That
make
is
sure.
correct, Darren.
Okay, great.
That's
Thank you.
correct. We've also reduced the size of those. Those are now down to 1-bedroom units, versus the 2.
Okay. Any other questions for the presenter or for Director Shoup? So if we turn that, are you basically, I guess, Director Shoup, if you want to give us your recommendation, and then we will see what council's appetite is.
Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything in the overall. Okay, I think we're good. Basically, we have a draft DA that we brought forward to council back in February. We were looking for a bit more detail on the landscaping side. And the question is, if the CAC is comfortable in recommending that we take these revised plans and recognizing that you've only just seen them now, and use those as the basis for finalizing a draft of the development agreement, which then can be taken back to council for first reading.
So a motion would be that the Council Advisory Committee recommend to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of council that council accept the revised site plan package and direct the CAO to finalize the development agreement for the proposed development. Moved by Councillor
Worship,
Savage.
I think probably we had a discussion earlier,
Okay.
before the meeting was, we probably need till May to get the language, because we've only got a couple of days
Okay.
to get this back out in a package to council, so.
Okay.
I think it would be safer to take this to May,
Okay.
so we can work out the details.
Want me to put a date in it, or?
Well, I think that'd come back to the council meeting in May.
Okay. Which is May. We'll get it.
May 26th, I believe.
All right.
If I may, this still has to go through both sets of lawyers as well, just to
Right.
make sure that everything
Okay.
is looking good from a legal perspective.
All right. May 26th, okay. You moved that, you're good with May 26th, or do you want to? Go ahead, yeah, hold on.
To the CAO. Sorry, I'm just trying to understand the delay to May.
Well, we just got these new plans this morning, so we have to make sure the language in the agreements reflect that. Darren needs to make sure he's captured elements of the condo piece, which is new to our department.
Right.
Has to go through lawyers on behalf of the applicant, lawyers on behalf of the town.
Okay.
So
Oh,
to say this would be ready to give 48 hours notice of the full agreement to you
Yeah,
in less than 2 weeks, I think is
is a bit over. Okay,
Is a bit
understand.
over, yeah.
Yep,
If I might chime in, I think I understand the source of the confusion, because I think the resolution, CAO, is for CAC to recommend to
Yeah.
council at the next council meeting that the CAO will go out and do all the things we just talked about. So it's not expected that April council will have anything presented to it other than this resolution. The resolution itself, I'm fine with the language of it, because I understand the intent to be that neither this group nor council will be confirming the content. It's just that CAC is recommending to council that there is sufficient information from CAC's perspective to allow staff to move forward, and whether it's May or June, it could be several months before the actual development agreement comes back to council for first reading. That be fair, Director Shoup?
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. So you want to leave May 20th?
Well, you can give direction, you don't have to wait to council to give that's why I was suggesting, well, you just give us direction tonight, then it doesn't have to go to council until you actually see the development agreement. Otherwise, you've got a recommendation going to council that you're going to vote on a second time with no added purpose to it.
So you would like a date in it, or you don't?
Well, just as the next soonest council meeting,
Okay.
that it can be ready, okay.
Okay. So I'll read that again, and then if you're ready to, that the Council Advisory Committee recommends the May 26, 2025 meeting of council, that council accept the revised site plan package and direct the CAO to finalize the development agreement for the proposed development. You're good with that? Councillor Savage, and a seconder, Councillor Andrew. Is there any discussion on that? Councillor Maxwell.
I'm just wondering, trying to vision this, where this is. Where are the already existing large apartment buildings?
They're the gray shapes on the map. I can show you a visual, an aerial. So
Yeah.
So there you see them a little more clearly with shadows and everything else to show you a little more detail.
Okay.
So they're just to the east.
Okay, so this
Just
goes
across
back
the court.
further than I was thinking it does. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Baker.
I'm not sure, so I can speak to the motion, is that accurate? Or
Yeah,
is that-
we would be now, yeah, we're speaking to the motion, because it's on the floor.
Okay, I'll save my question
Okay.
for.
Okay. Any other discussion on this motion that's on the floor? Okay, ready for the question. That the Council Advisory Committee recommend to the May 26, 2025 meeting of council that council accept the revised site plan package and direct the CAO to finalize the development agreement for the proposed development.
One second, we're just changing wording.
Okay.
Okay.
And voting is now open. And voting is now closed, and the motion's carried. Thank you very much. I'm gonna move on to your
Sure.
report. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
So I was going to carry on with the remainder of my regular report. So doing the overview, as we're looking at March in review right now. So the overall activity has increased, as one would expect. It's moving it. We're moving towards building season, and the number of applications has started to bump up a bit. We're looking forward to establish a planning advisory committee as well. That's part of the committees of council policy, which will return to the agenda at the end of the month. And also, we have a schedule for a meeting for the Heritage Advisory Committee on April 23rd. In terms of the numbers, 5 development permits were issued in the month of, that should be March, which an estimated total of just over $1 million. 1 subdivision application was submitted in this March as well, and that was to consolidate the 2 parcels for Vita Living. So there was 2 parcels and they brought them together. There's the now much talked about the Vita Living application, which is, we don't think we have to go any further into, but that's an ongoing one. The land use bylaw itself on February 7th, there was that's when it originally came forward. This regarding the C3 zone, which we had a public participation meeting last week for, and there's a report that's coming up later in this agenda. Also, first reading was given on March 31st for the subdivision bylaw to make amendments regarding first primary and secondary services. with the public hearing being scheduled for April 28th for that as well. So it's the second sort of separated item for this was just an update on a Bell Mobility cell tower placement. So we received this application, I believe it was in February, and we've been working with the applicant. The location for the tower is actually right over here in the parking lot, in the Bell parcel, one of their parking lots. We'll have additional information and a full staff report coming to council, probably for the May CAC meeting, just to give an idea what's happening there. We wanted to give a heads up, though. The letters have already been issued. The company has to do their own public participation as according to the federal requirements for that, as this is a sort of a federal mandate to determine where these can be located, with town council having fairly limited abilities that we can comment, and they may or may not take our comments, but like I said, the staff report coming up will give some recommendations on how we should conduct that. The letters were issued for all property owners within 90 meters of the proposed placement, so we may hear a bit more about that, and questions can be directed to planning staff as that comes in. On the community and economic development side, there are more public event permit applications coming through, again, as we ramp up for event season as well. There's some marketing campaigns that Lindsay Young's been engaged with, getting us up to speed with those and working with KBC on some of that. VIC, we're starting to get the Visitor Information Center up and running for this coming season. Somewhat awaiting operating budget and discussion that goes around that as well. But we've already started some early preparations. And Center Square, we're starting to do some cleanup in Center Square. Looking forward to installing some of the benches and bike racks later in the spring as we move into that season. And I think that's it for this report, at least. So happy to receive any questions.
Any questions for Director Shoup? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Director. Just wondering, do we have a time for that Heritage Committee meeting on April 28th yet?
I should have noted that. I don't believe we have an established time, but I'll double check and I can certainly respond.
Okay, great.
Get back to council on
it. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Your Worship. The land use bylaw, does it set the parameters for cellular towers within town of Kentville?
There's language in both the municipal planning strategy and the land use bylaw, and we strongly discourage it in the C1 zone, which is where this would be located. But that being said, discouragement is not the same as regulation. We prefer that it be elsewhere. And again, when we bring this report forward, we'll see that the proponent has looked at 4 different sites. And to my understanding, there are some sort of gaps in coverage, especially in downtown areas. And I think that's the main purpose for this tower, was to address some of those dead zones. So we do have some language, but it's based on the ability we have to actually regulate, which is very limited.
If I may, a second question. And I appreciate that we just talked a lot about the Vita Living. And my question was, I think it's appropriate this time, it was brought up about the location of the apartment building, and that we're learning through the location of the dog park, the amount of noise that a recreation facility, such as a pickleball facility or a dog park, creates right next to an apartment building. And I hesitate to put a pickleball court right next to an apartment building. I don't know whether that is good strategy in the long run.
Through the chair, that's something we can certainly address with the applicant as we continue our negotiations with them. And I know that it's come up in a few different discussions. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I guess there's no more questions. Moving on to Parks and Recreation, and we'll invite Director Langella up.
Hello, Mayor and Council. So there's 2 items. We have our CAC report, and then we have a programming update that was requested by Council. Originally, Lord Jacobs was going to present on that, but we have Becca Craig here. Laura got a little too excited this weekend, cheering on her daughter at a provincial competition, and she lost her voice. So we have Becca doing the presentation. Not to embarrass you, so I apologize. For CAC, I won't be touching on programming or community outreach, as that will be within our programming update. But a couple notes, I did want to provide an update on grants. So for the 24-25 fiscal year, staff were successful in securing 17 grants, accumulating to just over 235,000. 188,000 that goes towards our operating, and 47 went to capital. Some of those big grants were ACOA. The Rotary didn't provide us funding, but they covered billing for 40,000 for HWA. Nature Kids, so that's our after-school program, had funding of 30,000, and then the Active Communities Fund had a funding of 25,000 that goes towards all of our programming in town. And this does not include the annual funding that we get from the province for one of our permanent staff as well. Ravine update, it is now open. It closed back in 2022 due to a dump site that had washed into the ravine. And then last year we had a bridge that collapsed. So we have just finished up trail work to establish a new trail around the bridge to provide access still to the trail. And we'll be hosting some community cleanups for remaining debris that's in sight leading up to Environmental Day in June. And then finally, we had the Kemptville Home Show in April 25th to 27th. This is a partnership with the Darwin Group. And our presenting show sponsor is the Valley Credit Union. And for any information, you can visit kemptvillehomeshow.ca. And that's the CAC report.
Okay, thank you very much, Director. Any questions for Director Lanzo based on his report? Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. And it's not a question, it's just a comment about the ravine. It's really nice to see that open back up. I know citizens are pretty excited about it, so thank you for that. It's a lot of hard work.
Absolutely. I've been here for 3 years and it has not been open.
That's
so
right.
So it's a good feeling for sure.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Thank you to the staff and Trail Floats.
Thank you.
Perfect. I guess you're off the hook now.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and community members for having me here tonight instead of Laura. I'm really happy to present on our programming update and highlight some of the events and activities that we're going to be offering this summer season. Nope, that didn't work. So in our department, we've been calling them buckets in our sandbox of programming for the summer. We like to keep it fun, so that's kind of how we've been referring to it. And so I'll just run through the different buckets. We have our kids and youth programming, aquatics, outreach, and active living buckets. And in this, the different buckets, we have different activities within them. So I'll just run through that. So in the first bucket, we have programming for youth and children. And as you've heard in previous department reports from Director Langell, we run a very active after-school program called Nature Kids. And we were able to develop this program through partnership with funding from the province of Nova Scotia and the Department of Education and Early Childhood Education. This program focuses on outdoor education, physical literacy, and primarily through child-led play. And the design of the Nature Kids summer programming will mimic this, but there will be extended hours and activities that incorporate nature play, outdoor education, and even some cycling opportunities. The program will be housed out of the recreation hub, which has direct access to our trail systems and is in close proximity to several recreation facilities. It's also a place that a lot of our community members have built relationship with and feel safe and comfortable. In the fall, we are hoping, fingers crossed, to expand the after-school program and introduce a third cohort. Currently, we have 48 participants in our after-school care that divide into 2 cohorts, and we have an ongoing wait list around 30-ish, give or take a couple, around 30 people on the wait list. So to address this, we are looking to expand to have another cohort, which will equal an expansion to 72 participants. And this should be this will be pending the review and approval of the operational budget, and Director Langell will be speaking about this in our coming budget review meetings. We'll also be offering new youth programming throughout the summer, and we are working in close partnership with the Music and Communities to offer Camp Rock. This will be 4 weeks of programming where youth come together to form a musical group, and they spend an actual week writing and developing their own music to then perform for their families at the end of the week, which is really exciting. Additionally, we are launching the youth leadership programming, and we had a very successful launch of this in the spring, and we're hoping to continue this for future community champions through our Youth Questers program, which is a youth leadership program that was developed and designed by our Arcadia placement students this past 9 weeks. And that's a blend of recreation, mentorship, and outdoor education that give youth a chance to discover their strengths and develop leadership skills, all while being outdoors. Looking ahead, the Youth Questers will deepen with outdoor focus, and then future series of Youth Questers will continue to offer growth opportunities, helping young people to become confident leaders and environmental stewards. Looking into our second bucket, it's full of water in our aquatics program, and with the repairs being completed as we speak, we will have a full schedule of swim lessons, public swims. I keep wanting to say public skates, but it's public swims, aquafit programs, adult lane swims, sensory safe swims, and opportunities for private bookings as well. The third bucket area is outreach, and these roles will be reporting to the Neighborhood Outreach Program Coordinator, and they'll be assisting in fostering a sense of community connection and well-being in the town of Kentville. These positions are ones we've had previously, but they offer an opportunity to engage directly with community members and develop initiatives and projects that support and enhance inclusivity, belonging, and the quality of life in town. The final bucket is my work bucket, active living, and this work directly ties into the active living strategy which you approved earlier this year, and we will have 2 staff that work with me this summer. This is a new vision for our recreation programming for the summer, and I will have a staff dedicated to active transportation initiatives and one towards outdoor education, and I'm really excited about that this summer. They will be tasked with amplifying opportunities to engage in nature and being physically active, learning skills that will allow them to be active transportators for life, and looking to change and shift the culture within the town of Kentville to be more active. This is an opportunity to engage in nature, be physically active in our outdoor spaces, and build capacity within our community to connect more with our trails and encourage stronger connections with nature and the environment. Within this, June is Parks and Recreation Month, and I've been leading a regional coordination across the Annapolis Valley, which will develop a shared calendar of free recreational community activities, events, and celebrations from Clare all the way to West Hants. And we'll be focusing the month of June, into 4 different categories per the weeks that are in June. Week 1 will be Bike Week. Week 2 is going to be Inclusive Recreation Week. Week 3 will be Connect with the Land Week, and Week 4 will be Explore Your Community Week. And we'll be designing a activity passport, which will provide all of the information for the whole region and encourage residents to participate in events across multiple communities, exploring the new recreational activities that we have available and collecting stamps for each one that they visit, encouraging them to win some local prizes. There will be, just to name a few, community bike rides and adaptive parasport multi-sport programs, and some gardening workshops, just to, again, name just a few. So part of the program delivery will be in providing additional community-based events. We are going to be hosting the first in a series of running events on May 3rd. The Spike Family Fun Run is a fundraiser which will support the Spike Fund program, which offers funding to individuals who are requiring support to become more active in recreational activities. And this is a partnership with Route 541, and we'll have 3 different route distances, all utilizing the Harvest Moon Trail. And I do say that it's the first in a series of events because we're also going to be we're also going to be a host location for the Terry Fox Run this coming fall. And the larger design eventually is to host a marathon event next spring. And not many of you will know this, but Kemptville was the first host of the Harvest Marathon, and we do have a very active running community in the region, and we're excited to continue supporting that growth to have more people running in our community. So we will keep you updated as those events progress in their planning. And then another one I'd really like to highlight for you is Environment Day on June 7th, where we're partnering with the Rotary Club and Ducks Unlimited to celebrate World Environment Day. There will be events and activities in 3 different locations this year: Miners Marsh, Oakdean Park, and the Kemptville Ravine, and lots of different exciting activities to offer with information coming out very shortly. So this is just a preliminary glimpse of the summer program planning. Additional programs will be developed, making sure that our summer staff are able to build some ownership over the programming that they're offering, bringing their own new ideas and learning from the community to input some of the things that they've heard into their summer planning. Amanda Haslett, our administrative and communication coordinator, is working on a communications plan for the summer programming, and we are putting the finishing touches on the summer programming guide that will be published in paper and digital formatting for our community. So in conclusion, thank you for your time as we present these exciting opportunities for our community to engage in fun and playful activities this summer, and I'm very happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. We've got a question from Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you for your report. I do believe you have a pretty dedicated seniors group that likes to swim in the summertime. Mm-hmm. And I think you've received quite a bit of feedback about the time change that they were given last year, and they weren't overly happy with it. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that you can go back and dedicate the same day, number of days, and at the time that they used to be. Now, if there's aquatic aquafit or something in there at the time that they used to go, maybe if you could look at dedicating half the pool to aquafit and a couple of lanes for senior swim, rather than using the entire, area there for aquafit and then shutting out the seniors. Seniors don't like to swim early in the morning because it's cold, and they don't like to swim in the evening for the same reason. So I think 5 o'clock used to be the time, or around there somewhere. I really appreciate it if you could go back and look at redesigning that again so it fits more closely with the way it used to be.
Thank you for that. I'll take that back to the team.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Mine's not a question, it's just a comment. wow. I think that's quite a well-rounded lineup. It's super innovative, covers everything off. It's great for the youth, for the summer, and the regional coordination that you talk about from Clare to West Hants. Anyway, I just wanted to say hats off to you and your team, because it's a pretty aggressive schedule of events, but it's pretty incredible. So thanks for that.
Thank you, Kate.
Yeah, no problem.
Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Becca. I really love the fact that you're talking to other community organizations across the valley and coordinating a calendar that we can all share, maybe through valleyevents.ca or however you see that happening. But that's thrilling that, you can get a whole look at what the valley's doing as a person who lives here, and it's great. Thank you. Sorry, did you want to comment on that?
I'll just comment that there's going to be a number of ways to engage with the marketing materials. Kings County is going to be hosting a GIS platform for the events to be visually displayed, as well as a landing page for the collaboration through Valley Recreation on Facebook, as well as through our individual Facebook and social media platforms in the regional municipal units themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just have one question. Great presentation. The, I don't know which bucket it was. Let's say the first bucket. The traditional programming, what's our cap for that? Is it 40 kids? I forget how many.
Sorry, for the Nature Kids Summer
Yeah, or
Edition?
the, Nature Kids, yeah.
Yep, so we'll have 20 to 25 kiddos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, thank you very much. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So, I guess you're up. Okay.
No, I'm just gonna do a tech thing.
Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna move on to the police chief's report, so.
It's okay. No, it's not too hard to do. Why don't you switch? You can start on just your report.
I don't have one.
Okay, got it. Never mind then. We're dancing for nothing.
I don't dance.
Well, they just saw that, so there you go. This is you, yeah?
Yeah, there's
Okay, I'll have it up there in a second.
Is there anything special to work in this thing? Just the mouse pad? Space bar?
Arrows or space bar.
These ones? Okay. Gotcha. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, Alicia. Council, Mayor, CAO. Something a little different tonight. So last board meeting, I presented an update to our strategic plan categories. So in 2023, just to give you some oversight, 2023, 24, members from our service, board members came together to start our strategic plan process. It took probably, I would say probably over a 6-month period before it came together, and we took input from questionnaires from our staff, from the town, all sorts of things when we were looking at this. Obviously, we looked at our old I call it a strat plan, but our old strategic plan, which was outdated. Things have changed a lot. So through that, we developed our 5-year strategic plan, which we released last year. It is on our Kentville page for viewing, but I did send a copy of it to you that you could have just in case you didn't see it yet. So in that process, I guess when I looked at this, my thoughts were it's easy, pretty easy for someone to develop a strat plan and put it out there in hopes that your staff will follow it and you know that it's the direction of your organization is going to take. But let's be honest, if you don't have buy-in from your staff that you work with, from the community, it's hard to do that. So that was the big key factor when we built our strategic plan. Also, the other part was how do we report, how do we show that we're actually being accountable to what we say we're gonna do?
So I did some research on this and kind of tried to come up with a process, presented it to the board, and wasn't really sure what kind of response I was gonna get, but they actually thought it was really good. So in having said that, they asked me to present it to you guys tonight. So hopefully you think the same. So essentially what we did, when we did our strategic plan, a lot of brainstorming sessions. It was nice to hear KBC's doing the same thing. There is a lot of good things that can come out of it, I believe. Like I said, we started in 2023-24. Basically, these are our pillars that we wanted, that we identified as our categories that we needed to work on, and based on that, there was a total of 9. Is that right? Am I looking at that right? No. 7. Sorry, we probably had 9. 1 being equipment, training and education, obviously accountability and building trust, which is huge in policing, administration, wellness, communication, and proactive enforcement. So based on all those pillars, what we did is we then again brainstormed and developed goals that we wanted to hit in each one of those categories to say, okay, it's easy, I can say accountability, building trust, you know, we do that every day. How do we do it? So in doing so, we brainstormed, identified objectives that we wanted to meet in each category, and then a way to make sure that we're actually doing it. So then we get into our graphing, okay? So this may look like a lot, but essentially there's 4, 8, 12 objectives. Not to say that's the only objectives we need to meet when we're doing accountability and building trust, but there's 12 of them there that are listed. They're assigned to a certain person or unit, and then anticipated completion dates, and they can vary. So the percentage bars are based on a 6-month. Part of, with myself under the Police Act regulations, I have to update, we have to develop a strategic plan, for 1. 2, we have to then update the board on it. So biannually, we will update, so every 6 months we update the board on our process. I'm not gonna go through every one of these, because I could sit here probably for an hour and I know they won't be happy. So I won't do that. But please feel free to look at it. Any questions? You have 2 people that are sitting on the board, and then they can get to us, or you can show up at a board meeting if you'd like. A lot of them are, again, making sure that we're accountable, building trust, hosting community engagement sessions, sharing our actual strategic plan, what we've accomplished. So after tonight, this will go on our page for the public to see. It's very transparent. There's nothing that we're trying to hide unless it's an operational thing where we can't disclose it. And then with each one of those, I kind of went through and listed some of the highlights that we've actually done for each situation. Again, I encourage you to please have a look at it. We did our annual survey in 2024 with our office. Every year we have to complete a year-end report for the board. KPS web pages are being updated, and we'll be putting our policies online so the public can see as well. We've had a lot of new staff in the last 6 months, so we're looking at waiting until early or the fall until we look at another survey based on that. But again, so each pillar we went through and we did this, and then we listed the things that we've accomplished in the first 6 months. Keeping in mind our last year was a staffing nightmare. We hired 7 people, 7 members. We hired at least 2 civilians and changed positions. So last year was busy, so to accomplish what we did as a service, I think is a high achievement. So wellness, as you can imagine, is probably one of our top priorities. Making sure that we can keep people at work, keeping people healthy, and wanting to come to work and continue. So We've developed what's the word I'm looking for, I'm lost here. A partnership with one of the local wellness providers, and encourage our members to go seek any counseling or anything that they need. I can tell you, and I'm sure if I ask finance to pull numbers on how much money we've spent over the years on WCB and LTD claims, it would probably, as I'm sure Deputy Mayor knows as well, astronomical. Ensuring members are trained with CISM, which is Critical Incident Stress Management. We host a wellness symposium for the last 2 years. We have our third one coming up at the end of April, which is open to first responders, but not only first responders, anybody that would find it helpful. We have some other ones that we haven't looked at yet. I'm sure you've seen other agencies that have a compassion dog program, which is one that's pretty high on our list because it brings a lot of benefits to the service in the community. OHS committee, recognition of special events. The list goes on and on. So again, I've outlined some of those things that we've done within wellness over the last 6 months. And then I go on to equipment, which is basic stuff. You know, a lot of it comes through capital budget requests, but it's being able to have our service at a level that we need to have in order to do our job. Some of those things that we've completed in 2025, obviously our capital budget was just passed, so a lot of this stuff will be ordered, but we have taken some initiatives with previous patrol vehicles and updated them, so when our vehicles are down or we need extra vehicles, we have the use of those vehicles. Communication is huge. Internally, we've developed a monitor in the lobby that has a lot of updates for people coming and going, so they can see common questions that are asked, frauds and scams. Again, a lot with our social media. If you follow us on Facebook, our social media presence has increased substantially over the last, I'd say, probably 3 to 5 years. Town hall, increased communication with town hall staff, which is one that I truly believe is very important. You won't see this in another town, and I'm not saying that because I'm standing here, but you won't see a police chief in too many towns that I can think of presenting to CAC on a strategic plan. It's presented to the board. So I believe in it. I think we need to have a good relationship. One of the things we will see coming forward is stuff that we deal with warrants on social media. We're also doing our monthly initiatives for seatbelt safety, speeding, all those kinds of things will be posted and monitored online as well. Again, follow up with a list of items that are done. Administration, which is ongoing, policy updates based on the policing standards that were released in 2024. Making sure the chief and I, or the deputy chief and I, attend all the BOPC meetings, which are the board meetings. Making sure that I attend CAC meetings. Again, I don't know many chiefs that attend CAC meetings, or at least I haven't found them yet anyway. Update MOUs with partnering agencies. Just continue to update everything within our system to make sure things are more efficient. Onboarding process, we're very good at that, unfortunately. Proactive enforcement, there's where I go to our monthly initiatives with traffic enforcement, walking, making sure members are out, being visible on the block. I can't tell you how many times we receive comments on that and how much more people actually wanted. It seems very simple, but it can be very effective. One initiative we did this year was Coffee with a Cop. We're hosting another one again in May, which is also Police Week, the middle of May. And within the next little while, we'll be coming out with things that will take place during Police Week. We have members engaged at the school at least twice a month throughout the school year. It's typically more than that, where they're stopping down at the school. Now that the weather's hopefully going to get nicer, it seems to change by the day, but when the kids are on lunch or recess, again, we want to be able to be down there, be around the kids, the staff, and make sure that they see us as a friendly face and not just strictly enforcement sided. The proactive stuff, the list was long, so we had to subcategorize it into two. So, but again, it's a lot about being out there. We're not going to be perfect, but if we're not tracking what we're doing and ways to improve, then it's hard to gauge how we're actually doing. So again, this is a lot of the reasons why we're doing it this way. Training and education is very important with us. I've said it many times here and at the board, we have a small agency, but training hour wise, I think last year was over 1,700 hours in training. Which I think when you look across the board, we're very well trained and have lots of opportunities in that regard. Succession planning is key, something that I don't think we ever really thought about as a service years ago. You just kind of went through the ranks, and that's something we're focusing on now, is making sure that, well, I'm not going to be here forever, maybe, but again, the deputy as well, that we're making those steps to make sure that we can progress. And that's everything. Like I said, I could go sit through every point, but I leave that. I don't want to bore you to death. Please have a look at it, and we welcome feedback as well. It's the board, for those new around the table, the board has been very, very supportive, very engaging, and a lot of the reasons why I think we're where we are for that reason. So, and obviously council's been very supportive as well. So I am open to any questions you might have on that or anything at all.
Well, there's a light on already, so Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. And it's not a question, just a comment. Thanks. I know that we spoke about that at the Board of Police Commissioners and having it presented, so thanks for doing that. I mean, certainly the level of interaction that the members have with, you know, the folks in the community, it's super, super important, and people notice it. The transparency piece is important, and you folks being reachable is important, and I know that citizens feel that. And I know for me, and I'm sure the rest of council will attest to it, whenever you reach out to you or the deputy, the response is always almost immediate. So thank you for that, and thanks for presenting this strategic plan. It's an excellent one. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Chief, for that. It was revealing. And actually, the other thing that I found revealing this week was to see 2 CCN positions posted online. Is that accurate?
Just one.
Just one? Oh, it came up twice.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know how important that person is to this plan. Can you help me also understand what the CES is? Is that community education?
Community engagement sergeant.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. That would be the supervisor for the community crisis navigator, but also gave another option for a sergeant to take a different role. Again, we're looking at, you know, where they might be in the next few years, so they work a lot with myself and the deputy as well. But it also gave us an avenue to get back into community as well, right? So it took the partial role of our community policing officer that we didn't have before we developed that position.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I guess there's no more questions in regards to that.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
I don't know how to get rid of it.
We'll welcome up Director Bell with our Public Works and Engineering report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and CAO. I'll start as I usually do with Kentville Water Commission. Just an update. Staff have submitted the 2024 annual report of the town's municipal drinking water quality and our reporting, required reporting, annual reporting to Nova Scotia Environment and Climate Control, and is also now available on our town's website. We had a Kentville Water Commission meeting on March 26th. At that time, we did not have a citizen rep, but there is an item under new business to appoint a new citizen rep to both the Kentville Water Commission and Source Water Protection Advisory Group. Under sanitary sewer area service, there were no direct operational issues with the service in March, but interim CAO Matheson, Councillor Savage, and myself have attended several regional sewer committee meetings in the past month, and the committee has approved the 2025-26 regional sewer operating and capital budget. We will present highlights of the budget meetings along with a recommendation to Council to support this budget later on tonight under new business. Under Traffic Authority, as noted in last month's CAC meeting, winter conditions, as everyone's aware, have caused significant damage to several key streets, requiring more extensive repairs beyond our normal operating patching program. So the town has applied for 50% cost shared funding through the province's repaving program, and we expect a response later this month. Our department has contracted repairs to several of our crosswalk lights that need either bulbs or button repairs, and several have already been completed. And another update under Traffic Authority, at a request from citizens on Canaan Avenue in the Elm Avenue intersection, they have requested that the town look at a new crosswalk in that area. We are reviewing this now for location and appropriateness, because there is one up the hill, I believe, on Waldo. So we need to review site distances and see if this is a feasible location, or if it's better to extend the sidewalk in that area to connect to the other existing crosswalk. Also under Traffic Authority, we received a letter from the Kentville United Baptist Church Board of Stewards. I think it's page 145 of your package. It was regarding concerns of the traffic flow on the west end of Webster Street near River Street and the church parking lot. We have made, last year we made some line striping changes to improve safety and lane changes. That now, as most of our striping has faded, needs refreshing like it does every year. So that'll be coming up in the next few weeks, typically in early May, both from our own public works staff and the paint truck that goes through town, usually in an evening, to do all of the longer stripes. But we will review potential signage additions indicating that traffic merges ahead to make that transition back to 2 lanes from the one near the arena, and the proximity of the stop sign of both River Street and the accesses to the church's parking lot, and come back with some recommendation and changes in the near future. Under projects, we'll start with tenders, I guess. The Engineering and Public Works Department has posted 2 tenders for road repairs on the Nova Scotia procurement site. Those both closed late last week. We issued those earlier than typical because of the worsening road conditions this year. So the first one was the road rehabilitation tender, we called that one. It closed last Thursday. This tender is for partial depth milling and repaving on Main Street near Chester Avenue, on Bridge Street, sort of from the clock to the Webster Street corner, and a small section of Park Street out near near Gary Pearl Drive. It closed last Thursday. This section is included in a larger, already approved capital line item for street rehabilitation and will be awarded to Dexter Construction for the amount of $98,000 plus HST. There will be additional street repairs on Main Street that will happen later in the summer, and that's what I've mentioned in that co-funded application that we've made with the province for up to $500,000 of assistance for street repaving. The second tender was for patch paving. That's our typical operational patching tender, and it closed the next day, last Friday. We only had one tender for that submitted this year. We did have two for the rehabilitation, but just one for patching. It was also Dexter Construction. We don't have an approved operating budget as yet, but we will proceed with certainly the worst of the pothole and patching that we do most every year, and set a cap on that once we have an approved operating budget. But we will get them going on the worst and see what the budget line is to complete throughout the summer. Stormwater master plan update. Our stormwater consultant has provided the final report to our engineering team on April the 4th, and a special council meeting is scheduled for tomorrow night, April 15th, at the Kentville Fire Hall at 6 p.m. to accommodate more attendees. Dillon Consulting will present the report's finding to council, followed by a council question and answer session. The report has been made publicly available on our website as part of that meeting's package. As Julie mentioned from KBC in her presentation, we've been working with the KBC community and the downtown businesses last year on phase 1 of the downtown sidewalk replacement. Phase 2 is awarded and set to start in the next couple of weeks. Beginning on Aberdeen Street near Patty's Corner there, and working towards Tan Coffee. And then that'll be sort of ideally before Apple Blossom. They'll probably pull out for the week of Apple Blossom ideally, and then move to Webster Street. And that goes between the Royal Bank and the corner of Bridge and Webster. So we'll be keeping affected businesses updated on schedules, and our comms team will also keep the town's website up to date on construction timelines for this project and other ones that could affect businesses or traffic flow throughout town throughout the summer. Under budgets, council has approved, as you know, the 25-26 capital budget, and staff are working now on preparing tenders, awards already, some are awards, and some just project schedules to get that work underway for the 25 construction season. And I guess that's the highlights of my report.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions for Director Bell? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Director, for that report. Just looking at the patch paving tender and all the streets listed there, and I don't see where you have Exhibition Street on there. And just if you're coming up Bridge and turn right onto Exhibition, there's two very large potholes. I believe we filled them up last year, but they've opened up nice and wide this year.
That list is usually a list that we put out with the tender for priorities first, and then we move off to the side streets from there. So we can't obviously list every street, but we'll definitely make sure that those bad areas. No, but thank you very much, Councillor, for bringing that one to my attention.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Kroll.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Thank you, Director Bell, for your report. I'm wondering if you could give us a short update on the status of the water rate hearing study, and if there is going to be a sanitary sewer rate study done this year.
Okay, I'll start with the water. We have, as I think Council's aware, we've engaged Jerry Eisner, who did our last report, or our last study, rather, a good number of years ago. I think somewhere in the order of 10. So he has all the information that he has asked from our finance and engineering department, and working on that now. I think CAO Matheson has been in touch with Jerry. Most of mine has been through email, but I think Kevin was talking to Jerry recently. It will be certainly a fall date before that gets before the board. So fall hearing with the UA, Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board, and then I would think it'll be the end of 25, start of the calendar year 26 before those rates will be put into place, Councillor. We're going to present the regional sewers operating and capital budget later tonight under new business, and it is very clear from yet another very substantial increase through their operating capital and debt servicing that they're up another 30% roughly from last year. So year over year, substantial increase, and very much our single biggest expenditure on our own sewer operating budget. So there's no question we can do that for the most part in-house, and that has to happen ASAP to keep our position in the black.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your report, Director Bell, and thank you for addressing the letter that was submitted through the, on behalf of the Board of Stewards from the Kemptville United Baptist Church. And I know in there they make a comment about, you know, changing the proximity of the stop sign, and it may not be as easy as that, and there may be other things to come from that, but.
Yes, certainly.
The
stop sign was relocated last year, and the stop bar, because of the changes made to the crosswalk at the end of River Street, had to move back where the crossing to connect the bike lane to the sidewalk and the sidewalk back to the trail as it goes behind the Baptist church. So we did relocate those last year, but we'll make sure that they're in the optimal location as well this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Director Bell.
Oh, thank you. Good evening.
We'll move on to the CAO now for your report.
We submitted in writing, so I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for the CAO based on his report? Not a one, and that's how you do it, right? That's how it's done. So those reports will be filed, and we will now move on to business arising from the old business rather, and I'll thank all the directors, which I forgot, and thanks for presenting and have a great night. So we'll move on to item 6A, which was the C1 zone amenity space and parking requirement report, and Director Shoup is back. Long time no see.
It's great to be back. Just give me 1 second, I'll get the...
You want the report up there, Dan?
Just the, I've got a couple slides. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll go to the PDF. Hang on 1 second. Apologies for the delay. I always plays with the fonts. All right, so this is, I'm going to bump this up a little bit too. Yeah, sure. That gives me, not that in the way. The view?
Yeah, you full screen, control that. Yeah, 3 from the bottom.
It's great to have nice help. So this item came up early as I started my tenure with the town. We had delayed a little bit. It was part of the Housing Accelerator Fund, one of the items on there to address, but since that was unfortunately not as successful as we'd like this year, we're bringing it back up. So back in 2023, there was a request for decision that was brought to council at the time, and the ask was that we amend this bylaw, and then we're talking about the land use bylaw for the general commercial zone, C1 zone. So it does not apply to any pre-existing buildings in the downtown core. This would allow any potential developers to convert some of the upper levels of those older buildings into more residential units. So there was a staff report that followed up on this RFD, and the recommendation from staff was that no changes were made to the land use bylaw, that we held status quo. The Council Advisory Committee of the time, it voted against staff's recommendation, but unfortunately because there was no further, this is my understanding of this, because there's no further recommendations provided or direction to staff, that it just kind of sat there for a year and a half. So we've had an opportunity to pick this up again and provide some options and recommendations to facilitate further discussion. So in the staff report itself, looked at some of the context for Kentville. We did some comparisons with other towns in the province, looked at sort of the philosophy of development in the downtown cores, sort of historic downtown cores in different places. So and I have some images to support this as well, so we'll be able to look at particular examples perhaps. So downtowns have smaller lots. Often they're built right to the edges of the lots themselves, leaving in some cases minimal or no opportunities to provide the amenity or parking requirements that we have laid out in the land use bylaw. So for amenity space, there's some calculations that we look at based on the size of the units. We also have parking amenity or parking requirements as well. We have perhaps considered that in the past. Many towns have between a 1 and a 1.5 spaces per unit requirement. We've reduced it down to 0.5 per unit. However, in the range of towns, we said the lowest one that I could find of the sort of the comparable sized towns that we usually look at is at 0.25 per bedroom. So this gives you an idea of where the C1 zone is. We've got the area in blue in the key plan, the top left. That it's also we've given it more detail in the aerial to show sort of the lot configurations. There's some larger lots on the west side of that where some of the old train infrastructure would have been at one time. But we also have the downtown core, which Lindsley describes to me as the house that lives downtown, the kind of the shape of the streets, make it look like a house. But we see quite a few of those buildings in the downtown core have been built out to the full extent of their lots. So that again leaves them with limited opportunities when there's space above the commercial space on the ground floor. If they want to renovate and create new units, their hands are basically tied at this point, in some respects. So these are the comparative towns that we looked at. Again, Amherst, Antigonish, Bridgewater, Truro, and Yarmouth. Again, there's a range of options available through planning and through land use bylaws to regulate what can happen in these downtown areas. I'm personally of the opinion that the developer should be given the discretion to choose, that they're the ones that are making the investments. We do have some considerations. We're thinking, of course, in terms of the greater public. So there are different things that come into play, but there are opportunities, in particular for downtown Kentville, perhaps to look at this in a different way. And that's why we're looking at a range of options, and that's why we presented it that way. So from parking's perspective, we can go from everything from 0.25 to up to 1.5 was the range. We can also, I'll go all the way down to 0 in some circumstances. On the amenity space side, it's been parsed down to at a certain threshold of units where amenity space would come into play. So we currently have for 4 or more dwelling units that's when we ask for amenity space to be provided. For some units, municipal units, that's set at 8. So at eight apartments, then they would then be required. The interesting one that I saw in there was Antigonish's response to that by allowing the development officer to determine if there's public open space within 400 meters of the proposed new units, that would suffice as amenity space. And that's one thing that Kentville has in fairly good stock in its downtown core, between Center Square and Miners Marsh. The even the business community itself offers, although they're not public amenity spaces per se, but there are opportunities to participate in areas that you can get out of your apartment unit, and even the sidewalks themselves operate in that sense. So that's why we put together a range of options here for council, for the CAC to consider tonight. And as a summary, sort of for historic downtowns, the goal is to support a compact, people-friendly environments where you don't need to drive everywhere. So some of the traditional views on amenity space and parking, particularly the parking side of it, is designed for the car, where perhaps in Kentville we would have a different perspective on this, and I'm presenting a particular opinion on this, but it is based on some realization there is a range available. So having an area where you can walk, it's a walkable downtown basically, where you can accomplish all the needs that you need to address in the course of a day or a week. You can work, you can shop, and you can get out as well. So on the option side of the ledger here, for amenity space, we looked at between keeping it as status quo, as had been previously suggested, through to waiving amenity requirements at the discretion of the development officer if the project is within 400 meters. We could set it the threshold at a different level instead of where it is currently at 3. And we could also consider allowing cash in lieu for amenity space as another way, or a combination. In terms of parking, again, the status quo is always an option. And again, we look at a range of whether it's up to 8 units where no parking requirements could be considered, which would be a form of reduction. I think I just highlighted the wrong one, because I'd actually advocated for the removal of residential parking, so I apologies for that. It was item 4 that had made it into the recommendations from staff. Oop, I'm jumping ahead too far. So that being said, just want to make sure I got all my notes right. I mean, the idea tonight was to bring this back to council to allow for discussion. So I think you've heard enough from me on this one. But so if there's a discussion in any way I could assist with that, I'd be happy to do so.
Okay, I'll open the floor to questions. Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Director. Yeah, I love the idea of a liberal approach to this that puts it back in the hands of developers. I've just been privy to so many unwise decisions, and you know, my family chose to move back to Kentville and buy a place downtown. We're a family with 3 young children, and you know, 75% of the time, we maybe could do better. We could probably live without a car because we are in a town that has all the amenities basically that we need. And so I love the idea of flexibility around what we deem to be green space or amenities, and I love the idea of parking. And like probably most of us in the room have friends that live in larger centers, who sometimes are my age and have never had a driver's license because it's not needed. And I think it seems like the kind of thinking that lends to things like active transportation and public transport. And I think it's worth taking a new approach to this. Thanks.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you for this. I think this is great. I think we should have more people living in the downtown core. And
I'm just going to stop you for 1 second. We don't have a motion on the floor yet.
Oh,
so
okay.
and I should have stopped you too, but are there any questions for Director Shoup? And then if you guys are happy, we'll put a motion on, and then you can.
Yeah, sure.
Any questions for Director Councillor Savage?
Thank you, Mayor. The section, and it's in the background section where it says, we amend this bylaw so that it does not apply to any pre-existing buildings in the downtown core. So is that still part of the recommendation?
If I may,
Go ahead, yes.
My understanding is that was part of the original request for decision.
Mm-hmm.
If something was considered but doesn't form the basis of the motion or that's before you tonight.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
So I guess if there's no more questions, let's put this on the floor, that, based on this recommendation, that the motion would read that Council Advisory Committee recommend to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of council. The Council Advisory Committee recommend that council give first reading to amendments to the land use bylaw for in the general commercial zone, C1 zone, to allow the development officer the discretion to waive amenity requirements of a project if it is within a 400-meter route to a public open space and remove parking requirements for residential units. Someone could move that? Councillor Savage and Councillor Maxwell as a seconder.
Mr. Chair, if I may for just
Yes.
a second. I jumped the gun a little bit
Okay.
with that, and if I may, make the suggestion that CAC considers adjusting that to say direct the CAO to move towards a public participation meeting, so.
Okay.
Rather than first reading.
Okay.
Or it's an amendment of the land use bylaw that's being proposed.
So recommend that council, direct the CAO. Council direct the CAO. What did you?
Schedule a public
Schedule-
participation meeting
Okay.
on those two items.
Public participation meeting. Councillor Savage, you still good with that? And Councillor Maxwell, you're good with that? Okay, I'll open the floor to debate now. Councillor Maxwell.
Okay, I'm doing this right now. So, I agree with this and I like it. I think that we have some very old buildings downtown that, we could have people living up above them. And we're so lucky in Kentville to have so much amenity space just in our downtown core. It's amazing. We have the active transportation route close by. We have Center Square right in the middle of where most of these apartments or upstairs apartments would be. And I think it's long past due for us to make it easier for those buildings to convert to residential on the top. And as far as parking goes, I think it would be easy to remove it. If anybody even had a car who was living downtown, which I seriously doubt, they probably would. But we have lots of parking lots close by within walking distance that I think that they would be able to slip into overnight to park their vehicles. So I don't see any problem whatsoever with this, and it would be nice to increase the density downtown. So, thank you.
Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'm all for providing alternative housing options. I just want to make sure that the requirements are still rigorous around accessible parking spots attributed to said units that are developed. Would that conflict, or would that be in the same? I direct that to the director through the chair. Thank you.
That's a great question. I'm thinking that to make these units, first of all, accessible, in most cases require an elevator, which probably it wouldn't be part of the development, especially if we're looking for affordable housing options. But where we can look at how that should be fine-tuned to word properly. If there are developments, it's a good question, and I need to reflect on that a little bit more before I go further with it.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree. I think I'd like to see more density in the downtown as well, and I think having individuals renting down there it makes for a better downtown. I think the more people we put down there living, it makes for a more integrated community. So I like this.
Deputy Mayor Kroll.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Director Shoup, for your report. I also agree with this motion. This is a very walkable town. It's very easy to get around. There's lots of parks. There's every kind of business downtown that you could want for your living. And it would also be great to see more people in the downtown after business hours. It'd be nice to see people in the parks and walking the downtown core in the evenings and on weekends.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. Just thinking about accessibility, some sort of lift even on the outside of the building, might be possible for accessibility. But accessibility parking, I think we have a fair amount around the town. And so most people who aren't able to walk have, a motorized scooter or something like that that they can use. So I think if we look at where those accessible lots are, they would be able to access those buildings. So just, that was my comment with accessibility. I think we could make them reasonably accessible. So one lift might do 2 buildings,
Thank you. And I'll chime in at the end, like I always like to. I'm glad to see this forward. I'm the one who brought this forward a couple of years ago, and we've had a lot of staffing changes. So I do thank Director Shoup for bringing this forward tonight. As you've all expressed, we have a great town, and we do have a housing shortage. So why don't we do something about it? And I think this is just an easy solution, rather than them walking around and looking at all these empty upper floors, and there's quite a few of them downtown. So I'm very happy to see this forward. So if there's no other comments, we'll call for the question. And you've worded that nice and neatly, I think, right?
Do you want me to put it up?
Put it up, yeah.
Second. It goes between 2 pages, so I'm going to
Okay.
bring it down all on one.
All right.
Can
So,
you see that? Do you want me to zoom in?
no, my eyes are still good, Alicia.
Hey, it's hard for me to see. How's that?
That's perfect. So Council Advisory Committee recommends to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of council that council direct the CAO to schedule a public participation meeting on the proposed amendments to the land use bylaw for in the general commercial C1 zone to allow the development officer the discretion to waive amenity requirements of a project if it is within a 400-meter route to a public open space, and to remove parking requirements for residential units. And voting is open now. And voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much, Director Shoup. You're still here, so we have an update on the C3 limited commercial zone amendment.
All right, this is.
Or you have a recommendation, yes.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. This is following up on the April 9th public participation meeting that was held. So we did have a little bit of feedback from that night. What we're proposing is in the limited commercial C3 zone. Again, I have a map to show that where that lives in town. To facilitate the conversion of residential properties to small office. That's the original purpose, sorry. And they're near the hospital area, so we'll see them here, marked in blue. Bridge Street is going north and south on the page, Exhibition, east and west, and the town-county line is on the left-hand side. I just merged us together there. So currently, residential conversions are not permitted within that zone. Going back to the original side, the original purpose was to move towards more commercial near the hospital, professional offices, and clinics. What we propose to do is to allow 4 residential conversions up to 4 units in keeping with these other zones which currently allow them under the same considerations as we see here. One item that we didn't mention last week during the public participation meeting, or highlight at least, was that there is a requirement that they be on a major or minor collector road. So in the case of this map, that would be Bridge Street and not Exhibition. So that would apply further limitations on where these residential conversions could take place. But I thought worthwhile bringing that up tonight to make sure everyone understood that. And so we looked at 3 options again last week. There was allow up to 3 units, allow up to 4 units, which would be in keeping with the current zones which permit this. And then the third option is the status quo, which would be to prohibit. So in terms of next steps, we're at CAC reviewing recommendation tonight. Should CAC decide to recommend it to council, we take that to the April 28th meeting. And I believe you have the recommendation there, which I can read, or you?
I have it here. Do you want me to?
Sure.
Okay. So actually, any questions for Director Shoup, and then I'll tell you what the recommendation was, that council give first reading to the proposed amendments to the land use bylaw to permit residential conversions of up to 4 units in the limited C3 zone. So, Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. So is this excluding Exhibition Street?
It would be, yes, basically. Any units that would front on Exhibition would be excluded from this.
Okay, thank you.
Change.
Any other questions for Director Shoup? Okay, I'll put that recommendation into a motion that Council Advisory Committee recommend to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of council that council give first reading to the proposed amendments to the land use bylaw to permit residential conversions of up to 4 units in the limited commercial C3 zone and direct the CAO to schedule a public hearing. Moved by Councillor Savage and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Kroll. Any discussion on that? Councillor Savage.
It's just a comment, not discussion or a question, just a comment. I think it's great that we're permitting the residential conversions of up to 4 units. I know that we talked about 3 or none, but I like what's happening here tonight in terms of density in the downtown and close to the downtown at Bridge. I think we're making some great strides tonight. Just a comment.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this? We'll call for the question. The Council Advisory Committee recommend to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of council, council give first reading to the proposed amendments to the land use bylaw to permit residential conversions of up to 4 units in the limited commercial C3 zone and direct the CAO to schedule a public hearing. And voting is almost open. It's open now. And voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you, Director Shoup. Director Langel's here with I was going to say dog report, dog park report, sorry. Yeah.
This is how many dogs I am here to provide a staff report on the Marsh View Dog Park relocation. Just wanted to give, this was motioned on March 31st, so the next working day was April 1st, and we had to have this in by April 9th. So there were 7 working days to get this information together. That didn't provide a lot of time for us to get a very accurate number for everybody around the table for council. So we would need more time if you want hard numbers on this entire project. But just to give you an overview for those council members that don't have the background of it, I went back through all of the CAC meeting minutes from 2014 up to 2025, as well as council meetings. And the conversation started in 2014 and 2018. The Community Dog Park Committee came to council, CAC, where it was approved for the pasture land. And then the dog park was actually built and opened on July 7th, 2023. So it was a long process. I know there was some other pieces in between in the notes regarding having a difficult time getting the land from on the pasture land getting approved for a dog park. If we're looking at replicating this dog park at a new location by the skate park, you would be looking at 2 different pits, so 2 different properties. If you want to replicate, unknown of what the cost would be to acquire 2 separate lands, 2 parcels of land from 2 different homeowners. What we do know is the assessment value is $12,000 and $20,000, which is probably quite low for what it should be. When we talked to Roscoe Construction, They could only give us a dollar value on putting in a new fence at the location, along with clearing the land, and doing some test pits, because the expectation is that if we do an environmental test phase 1, it will go to a phase 2. So that base cost to start is $250,000. And then you'll be looking at remedial action if there is any issues. And then furthermore, the village didn't mind us as a partner, and they were a partner at the table and provided funding, and it went through their commission as well. And they provide us annual funding of $3,500 to maintain the dog park, and they maintain all communication and operations of it. So from the Parks and Recreation lens, as you would have heard from Becca, a lot of our movement is to work in collaboration with our partners in neighboring communities, and this could, hamper that relationship as well. I think that is the gist of it from the report. If you want more information or more concrete numbers for finances, we would need a couple months to prep that and talk to landowners and get Roscoe on site to actually see the site first off, because there is a lot of debris on site with fencing and some other issues too. Any questions?
Any questions for Director Langell? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I can sympathize with the people that want us to look at moving it. However, there are several things that are concerning to me. Number one is making a precedent for moving something because of noise. We have a tennis facility that's a pickleball facility right behind the residents of West Main Street, and we have people living right across from Memorial Park, and they have to listen to a loudspeaker almost every weekend with ball games and things like that, and bright lights. I think, I did ask at one time about like a buffer to absorb noise, and I think we planted trees there as part of that, so when they grow, I think that will provide a bit of a buffer, and I don't know if there's anything that you can put over fencing to absorb any sound or anything like that. Maybe that's something that staff could look into, much like the screening that you would put up on Memorial Park so people can't see down in when those ball games are going on, but maybe there's something with sound now, but I can also appreciate the cost, and I think it's just for me it's just out of the question that we would be able to, that we would move the dog park. There was lots of notice talked about in 2014 and then in 2018, and then 2023 was when it was built. So, I just think that I could never support moving it for any reason, because then we're going to be moving recreation facilities that have noise associated with them all over the place. So.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director, for compiling this report and presenting it to us tonight. Was actually I had brought the request for decision forward to be looked into, and so thank you for doing that. I would echo what Councillor Maxwell says. I certainly would not recommend that we move forward with moving it. The cost is certainly, it's far exceeds, and also to the point of setting a precedent around our recreation services that we have now. And however, Councillor Maxwell mentions about a buffer of sorts, and I do understand around the trees that's what, part of the reason why they were planted. I think we're in hour 4 now, or whatever we are, planted. And so I don't know if that would be within your purview or whose it would be in, but I would like to see, and obviously it's just me, it would have to be the wish of council, to see if there's anything at all that we can do to help, minimize what seems to be I don't live there, so I don't know, but what seems to be a lot of noise and quite bothersome. So, thank you for that. I mean, thank you for your report.
Yeah. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I will echo what my colleagues say about exhausting every remediation possible to offer an alternative. I guess that's what I'm looking for, is what type of remediation do we have before we get into noise bylaws. I discovered by running a rototiller at 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning that there's a noise bylaw that starts at 9 o'clock. So if you have yappy dogs out at 8:30 in the morning, there might be some notice that we could put up at the dog park that brings some people a greater level of understanding and a code of conduct, similar to how would we behave on the hockey ice surface or on the bicycle trail or at the dog park. Like, this is the expected code of conduct. You stoop to scoop, but also you don't get your yappy dogs out before 9.
Okay. I guess there's no other questions. Thank you very much for bringing that back so quickly. Oh, you have one more question? Well, I guess you're not off the hook yet.
No, well, it's not really quite,
Okay.
so moving forward, a way forward, is I can't ask you to do this, but would it be the will of council?
You want to put a motion on the floor then to direct?
So we could, if you put a motion on for next capital, are you looking for, or?
No, more like around the noise, the buffering, and if there's anything that.
Let's take my lead, just so I know, are you speaking first, or am I at all, or am I just doing support? Sewer.
I'm just saying, here's the budget.
Okay.
I'm keeping it very short and very sweet.
I got backup if you need anything, but I know you've got it too, but I am staying.
I didn't bring all the back, I was
No.
just saying, bang,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
I meant to talk about the breakdown. You can certainly do that, but if you've got your own words to say, Kevin, I did turn it into a recommendation, but it didn't, I wasn't sure, I didn't see it today. As long as the mayor has something to recommend. What are those?
Pandemonium, we got 4 little ones that 8 and under, so they're.
Sorry, Craig. Hi, Craig.
Darren,
Yes.
just remind us, tell them what was going wrong with one.
Maybe there's nothing.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Are those still agenda items?
No, my neighbor here is one.
I don't know, I didn't know, I wasn't sure what was going on.
Okay. Okay. So we're resuming our meeting now at 8:47 PM. We're moving on to new business. We have a report, I believe, from you, Ms. Christie, on the Stormwater Management Project Grant.
Not so much as a report, but a brief memo. Staff just wanted to make council aware that we are in the middle of preparing a submission to the Sustainable Communities Challenge Fund to seek funding for what will be the 2026-2027 fiscal year for one of the proposed projects from the Stormwater Management Master Plan. We'll speak more to that tomorrow evening, and you folks will be able to dive in. But that funding, we apply now, we'd be awarded if successful in fall 2025, and then receive the funding for that upcoming fiscal year. We just wanted to make council aware now, because at this stage, we don't need a motion of council to apply, but we would need a motion of council to accept. So once council sees the wholesome report provided by Dylan tomorrow, we can provide further details on what our application entails and which section it was submitted for, just based on the timing of tonight and tomorrow, and not all the information has been provided publicly. We can wait to give a wholesome report. We just wanted to let you know that staff are moving forward with seeking funding where possible.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So we will move on now to, you're going to present these, right? Or Director Bell? Oh, you know what? This is the appointment. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm jumping the gun here. I'm ready to go home. So we've had a vacancy on the Kentville Water Commission and Source Water for a while now, and we've finally got a great citizen who's applied to be on both of them. So we have a recommendation tonight. The council approved the appointment of the CAC recommend to the April 28th meeting of council. The council approved the appointment of Mike Cameron to the following groups: Source Water Protection Advisory Group for a term of 2 years, and Kentville Water Commission for a term of 2 years as well. So moved by Councillor Savage and Councillor Baker as a seconder. Is there any discussion on that? I didn't think there'd be any. So the Council Advisory Committee recommend to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of council that council approve the appointment of Mike Cameron to the following groups: Source Water Protection Advisory Group for a term of 2 years, and Kentville Water Commission for a term of 2 years. And voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. So we now have the regional sewer 25-26 operating capital budgets, and
thank you.
Give you the floor,
Your Worship. There was a typo in my report. So in the recommendation, that the town share is 1,424,000 even is our share of the 2.724800. So 1,424,000 would be the correct amount in there. So we've provided the documents that were reviewed by the Regional Sewer Committee. The town's operating contribution will be 38.1% higher this year than was in the budget for 24-25. A big driver of that is 12% is the capital projects that were completed in prior years. Now the debenture financing is in place. So we were committed to that once we approved those capital budgets in the past. There were a number of meetings, both of the committee and of a technical steering committee of staff. There were a lot of questions from the various partners, including the industrial partner had a lot of concerns as well, PepsiCo. Village of Minas had lots of questions. We did as well on various aspects within the operating expense. There was lots of debate back and forth. There were some minor changes, but we are where we are, I guess, with it. It's an older agreement that really doesn't give us even if we said no, doesn't give out, it's just basically, it's a vote of advisory to the County of Kings, because they are the owners, the operators. They are responsible to the Department of Environment for all operations. And as you're well aware, there's been a number of issues over recent years that they've had to address, which are driving a lot of these costs. We are somewhat reluctantly recommending that this be approved, and that we'll have to build this into our sewer rates going forward.
Are there any questions for the CAO based on that? It's no takers. So we'll put that motion on the floor.
So there's two motions.
Okay.
The first is to recommend the council approval of the operating budget of the regional sewer for 25-26, the amount of $2,724,800, of which the town of Kentville will contribute $1,424,000 as its share of municipal funding.
Someone could move that? Councillor Savage and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Kroll. Any discussion on that? Ready for the question? The Council Advisory Committee recommend to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of Council. The Council approve the capital budget of the regional sewer for the 25-26 fiscal year in the amount of $2,724,800, of which Town of Kentville will contribute $1,424,000 as its share. Oh, did I read capital? Operational budget. Of which the Town of Kentville will contribute $1,424,000 as its share of municipal funding.
Oh, sorry, I clicked open too fast.
And voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. All right, you're up again.
And the second motion is that CAC recommend the council approval of the capital budget of the regional sewer for fiscal 25-26, the amount of $3,735,000 to be funded from grants, debt, and capital reserves of the regional sewer.
And a seconder, Deputy Mayor Kroll. Any discussion on this? All right. The recommendation is that Council Advisory Committee recommend to the April 28th, 2025 meeting of Council that Council approve the capital budget of the regional sewer for the 25-26 fiscal year in the amount of $3,735,000 to be funded from grants, debt, and capital reserves of regional sewer. And voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. We have one piece of correspondence, which Director Bell touched on earlier this evening on the street intersection concern. We'll now open the floor to public comments. Members of the public are invited to come up to the podium, state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Guess nobody wants to speak, so we've concluded our business for this evening. We do have confidential matters we need to discuss in camera, so I'll take a motion to enter in camera. Councillor Andrew and Councillor Savage, all those in favor? Thank you.